When you finally pull away, when you stop calling, stop texting, and stop showing up every time she snaps her fingers, something powerful begins to happen. It's not about playing games, it's about reclaiming your energy. Because here's the truth. When someone has constant access to you, they forget to value your presence. They begin to take your consistency for granted, not out of cruelty, but out of human nature. We grow accustomed to what's always available. But the moment you step back, the moment your presence turns into silence, that same person is forced to face the emptiness left behind by your absence. That silence becomes a mirror, and she starts to see everything she couldn't before. At first, she might not even notice. She might assume you're just busy, or that you'll come back like you always do. But as the hours turn into days, and the days turn into weeks, something inside her starts to shift. She scrolls through her phone, sees your name, and hesitates. She thinks about reaching out, but stops herself. Pride holds her back, yet curiosity pulls her closer. She starts to wonder what changed. Because this time, your distance feels different. It's not reactive, it's intentional. It's not coming from pain, it's coming from peace. And that, right there, is what triggers the reflection. In that quiet space you've created, she starts to remember things she once overlooked. The late night conversations, your attention to her smallest details, the way you made her feel safe even without saying a word. Suddenly, those moments begin to play like highlights in her mind. It's no longer about what went wrong, it's about what she misses. She starts to replay the sound of your laughter, the look in your eyes when you listened, the calm in your presence when she was all over the place. All of these little memories start to build an emotional echo, and she begins to feel something she didn't expect: regret. You see, distance doesn't just create physical space, it amplifies emotional awareness. When you're always available, her emotions are diluted by comfort. But when you step back, that comfort turns into curiosity, then confusion, and eventually clarity. She starts to see what life feels like without your energy around. The texts from others feel hollow, the conversations seem dry, and even the things she used to enjoy don't hit the same. That's when she realizes it wasn't the activities, it wasn't the attention. It was you. It was the energy you brought into her life that made everything feel alive. There's something undeniably powerful about absence. It magnifies everything presence once made invisible. Your silence becomes louder than your words ever were. It starts to make her question her own choices, her own assumptions, her own pride. She begins to see the difference between attention and affection, between lust and love, between convenience and connection. And while she might not say it out loud, internally she starts to crave that familiar sense of balance that only existed when you were around. This is where emotional reflection deepens. She starts to think not just about what she lost, but why she lost it. She begins to see the moments she took lightly, the times you tried to communicate, the times you showed care, the times you made effort that went unnoticed. Distance allows her to see these things not as random gestures, but as reflections of love. It's almost ironic how silence can reveal what words never could. Because in that silence, she finally hears the weight of your absence. And while she's going through this realization, you're evolving too. You're no longer waiting, no longer seeking validation, no longer trying to convince someone of your worth. You're growing into the version of yourself that understands that love doesn't require chasing. You start focusing on yourself, your peace, your growth. And in that self-focus, your energy shifts. You radiate a calm confidence that doesn't need her approval. And that's exactly when she starts to feel the pull. Because nothing attracts a woman more than a man who's grounded in himself. Your distance teaches her something profound, that your presence was a privilege, not a guarantee. It shows her that you are capable of walking away when your energy is not being valued. It reminds her that you are not desperate for love. You are deserving of respect. The moment she realizes that your silence comes from strength, not from spite, she begins to see you differently. Not as someone who's gone, but as someone who's grown. Distance becomes the emotional reset she didn't know she needed. It gives her clarity, it gives her contrast, and it gives her the space to feel. Because when the noise fades, what remains are emotions that can't be ignored. And it's in that stillness where she starts to understand. What she once took for granted was never ordinary. It was rare, it was real. And now that it's gone, she can finally feel its weight. When you stop reaching out, when your presence no longer lingers in her messages or her daily routine, something begins to stir inside her. It's not immediate. At first, she may assume you're just giving her space, that you'll return like you always do. The same way you always answer, always check in, always make sure she's okay. But when the silence stretches longer than she expects, her mind starts to wander. Questions begin to form, quiet at first, then louder. Why isn't he calling? Has he moved on? Is he talking to someone else? The mystery of your absence becomes magnetic. It's not about manipulation. It's about rediscovering your value through scarcity. People chase what feels uncertain, what they can't easily define or control. And that's exactly what happens when you pull your energy back. You stop being predictable, and unpredictability awakens her curiosity. She starts to pay attention to details she never noticed before. Maybe it's the way you used to say good morning every day, or the fact that you always found time for her no matter how busy life got. Now, that consistency is gone. Your energy feels different, detached, calm. And that calmness sends a message. You're no longer emotionally chasing what doesn't chase you back. She begins to sense that shift in power. For so long, she may have been the one being pursued, knowing that no matter how she acted, you'd always be there, ready to respond. But now, the dynamic has changed. Your silence introduces uncertainty, and that uncertainty creates emotional tension. That tension is what makes her curious again. She starts replaying your last conversation, wondering if she missed a sign, something you said that hinted at this distance. The curiosity begins to consume her thoughts in quiet moments, when she least expects it. Mystery is a powerful force because it's rooted in contrast. When you were open, expressive, and available, she had no reason to question your intentions. But when you become silent and composed, when you no longer seek validation, she begins to question herself. She wonders what you're thinking, who you're seeing, and what's keeping you so calm. The less you reveal, the more her mind fills in the gaps. And in most cases, those imagined scenarios are far more powerful than anything you could actually say. This new version of you, grounded, detached, and self-contained, becomes intriguing. You no longer project neediness. Instead, you project peace. And peace is rare. She notices that you're not posting to get her attention, not texting to remind her you exist, not doing anything that screams desperation. That quiet self-assurance speaks louder than any words could. It tells her that you've shifted from being emotionally dependent to emotionally dominant. And that shift awakens something primal in her. Curiosity turns into attraction because mystery creates emotional friction. She feels that something is happening with you, but she can't quite figure it out. And when a woman can't figure something out, she invests emotionally in trying to solve it. That's the moment focus starts to shift back towards you. She begins to ask mutual friends about you, check your social media more often, maybe even post subtle hints hoping to catch your attention. She's not doing this consciously. It's her curiosity turning into a quiet need for reassurance. The more she wonders, the more she feels. Because curiosity doesn't just live in the mind. It lives in emotion. The tension between what she knows and what she doesn't know starts to awaken her feelings again. The same man she thought she had figured out suddenly feels like a mystery, and that mystery becomes irresistible. This is why silence can be more powerful than any romantic gesture. It forces her to think, to question, to remember. She begins to recall the energy you used to bring, the connection you once had, and she wonders if she misjudged its importance. The beauty of mystery lies in restraint. It's in your ability to stay composed when you could react, to stay silent when you could reach out. You don't need to announce your growth. You let your absence and peace speak for you. That energy shift doesn't just change how she sees you. It changes how she feels about you. She realizes you're no longer trying to win her back. You've already won yourself back. And that makes her curious in a way that words never could. The mystery you create by pulling back is not about manipulation, it's about balance. It's about showing that your world doesn't revolve around her. You've stepped back into your own orbit, and that gravitational pull is what draws her back in. She starts to crave the attention she once took for granted, not because you're forcing her to, but because your silence now carries a presence of its own. The man who once chased is now still, and in that stillness, she feels the difference. Your energy has evolved from pursuit to purpose, and that evolution is what reignites her curiosity. There's something incredibly powerful about a man who stands firm in his emotional independence. It's not arrogance. It's not indifference. It's quiet strength. It's the calm confidence that says, I don't need anyone to complete me, but I welcome those who compliment me. When you give her distance and focus on yourself, something changes in the energy between you. The version of you that once waited for her replies, that constantly tried to prove your worth, begins to fade away. What takes its place is a man who values his peace more than his need to be chosen. And that transformation is magnetic. When a man pulls his energy inward and redirects it toward his goals, his growth, and his happiness, the shift is undeniable. You're no longer chasing her validation because you've started giving yourself the things you once expected from her: attention, appreciation, and purpose. You become grounded. And that groundedness becomes deeply attractive because it communicates emotional control. It tells her that you've stopped seeking love from a place of lack and started existing from a place of fulfillment. You're no longer begging to be seen. You're too focused on becoming someone who can't be ignored. Women feel energy more than they hear words. She might not fully understand what changed in you, but she'll sense it. She'll notice that you're no longer reacting to her absence. You're not trying to prove your worth through effort or emotion. You've built emotional boundaries that protect your peace. That calm, balanced energy makes her curious again because it feels unfamiliar. It's not the version of you she was used to, the one who overextended himself, trying to please her. This new version of you is self-assured, composed, and content whether she's around or not. Emotional independence doesn't mean shutting her out. It means learning to value yourself without external validation. When you stop depending on her attention for your happiness, you take back your power. You stop moving from desperation and start moving from direction. Your life begins to expand in ways that don't revolve around her. Your career, your health, your mindset, your purpose. You begin to look like a man who's focused, disciplined, and in control of his emotions. And that kind of presence, that level of self-mastery, speaks louder than any words ever could. The reason this becomes so magnetic is because it triggers something in her psychology. Every woman is drawn to stability, not just financial, but emotional. When you show her that her absence doesn't shake you, it makes her feel both intrigued and safe. Intrigued because she can't easily read you anymore. Safe because your emotional stability communicates strength and maturity. The kind of strength that isn't easily swayed by mood or emotion. She starts to realize that while others react, you respond. While others need, you choose. And that quiet distinction sets you apart. In a world where everyone seeks validation, emotional independence becomes rare. It's the kind of energy that commands respect without ever asking for it. She sees you living your life, not posting for attention, not trying to prove a point, just existing with quiet confidence. Maybe you've started working on your fitness, diving into your goals, or simply spending time in solitude. Whatever it is, it radiates. Your energy starts to tell a different story, one where you're the main character, not a supporting role in her life. She begins to sense that you're not waiting around anymore, that you've outgrown the need to constantly reassure or explain yourself. And this is when emotional independence becomes magnetic, because deep down, she starts to feel the emotional gap. The dynamic that once gave her control now feels uncertain. She's no longer sure where she stands with you. That uncertainty makes her curious, but it also makes her respect you, because you've proven that your happiness isn't dependent on her validation. You've shown that your life moves forward with or without her participation. This kind of self-assurance pulls her back towards you in ways you can't imagine. Not because you're playing hard to get, but because you've genuinely detached from the need to be understood, liked, or chosen. You're no longer chasing emotional comfort, you've found it within yourself. That's what makes your energy magnetic, because she can feel that you're not pretending to be strong, you are strong. You're no longer operating from fear of losing her. You're operating from acceptance that what's meant for you won't require you to beg. She'll start to look at you differently. The same man she once took for granted now stands as a mystery, calm, collected, and untouchable. She wonders how you managed to shift so effortlessly from being emotionally available to emotionally composed. But it wasn't effortless. It was growth. You stopped waiting for someone to validate your worth and started creating a life that reflected it. That's emotional independence. And that's what makes her look back and realize that maybe, just maybe, you were the steady energy she wasn't ready for. Every connection is built on the exchange of energy. It's not just about words, gestures, or attention. It's about what you give emotionally, mentally, and spiritually. When you care deeply for someone, you naturally pour your energy into them. You think about them constantly. You go out of your way to make them happy. You invest your time, effort, and emotions. But when that energy isn't reciprocated, when it's met with indifference or neglect, the connection starts to lose its balance. That's when the real transformation happens, when you decide to withdraw your energy. Because energy withdrawal isn't revenge, it's realignment. It's a conscious decision to stop pouring into something that no longer pours back. When you pull your energy back from her, she feels it. Not immediately, not in an obvious way, but subtly. The late night texts stop. The consistent check-ins disappear. The constant reassurance that you were always there fades into silence. She might not understand it at first. She may even think you're just busy or distracted. But deep down, her intuition picks up on it. Energy doesn't need to be announced, it's felt. She starts to notice the void your presence used to fill. The quiet moments that once felt peaceful now feel empty. That emptiness is the echo of your withdrawn energy. You see, when you were giving constantly, she didn't have to do much. Your energy was doing all the work. It carried the connection, it kept the emotional spark alive, it maintained her comfort. But once you stop feeding that flow, the imbalance becomes clear. She starts to feel the weight of her own silence. The same comfort she used to feel in your attention begins to fade, replaced by confusion and curiosity. She begins to realize how much of the connection's warmth came from you. Your consistency, your care, your calm. That realization doesn't come through logic. It comes through absence. There's something powerful about the silence that follows energy withdrawal. It forces her to confront reality. Without your energy stabilizing the dynamic, she begins to experience emotional withdrawal too. The conversations don't hit the same with others. The excitement of validation from new people feels temporary. She starts to feel a disconnect within herself because she's lost access to the emotional rhythm your energy created. That rhythm once gave her balance, reassurance, and emotional grounding. Now it's gone, and the stillness begins to make her uncomfortable. This is where most people misunderstand energy dynamics. Pulling your energy back isn't about trying to make her miss you. It's about protecting your own peace. It's about choosing to preserve what's valuable within you rather than depleting it in someone who doesn't notice. When you stop overextending, you create space for her to feel the consequences of imbalance. She starts to realize that your energy wasn't ordinary. It was nurturing. It carried intention. It came from a place of genuine care, something that can't easily be replaced. As your energy retracts, something interesting happens. You start to feel lighter. You begin to notice how much mental and emotional weight you were carrying. You see how much effort you put into maintaining a connection that wasn't reciprocated. The silence that once felt lonely starts to feel peaceful. Your focus shifts inward. You start investing that same energy into yourself, your goals, your health, your passions. And as you do, your frequency changes. You begin to radiate a sense of self-control and calm that others can feel without you having to say a word. That's when she starts to feel the contrast even more deeply. The version of you that used to chase is gone. The one who used to give endlessly is now still. That stillness is powerful because it reflects growth. She can sense that your energy has evolved. It's no longer desperate. It's discerning. It no longer seeks validation. It seeks alignment. This shift in vibration is what makes her start to feel the pull again. It's not about wanting what she can't have. It's about realizing what she's lost. Every woman, whether she admits it or not, is drawn to masculine energy that's focused and controlled. When your energy is scattered, when it's constantly chasing, it loses its strength. But when it's contained, when you hold it within yourself, it becomes magnetic. She feels that. She feels that you're not chasing anymore, not trying to convince, not trying to prove. You've learned the art of emotional restraint, and that restraint speaks louder than any confession ever could. The beauty of energy withdrawal is that it rebalances everything without you having to say a single word. It reminds her, and you, of where the true power lies. Your energy is your currency, and when you stop spending it recklessly, its value increases. She begins to remember how it felt to be around you, the comfort, the stability, the peace that came with your presence. And as that memory lingers, it starts to turn into longing. Because no matter what she tries to replace it with, nothing feels the same. The calmness, the security, the emotional warmth, all of it was tied to your energy. And now that it's gone, she finally understands what she once had. Distance has a way of revealing truth in ways that constant presence never could. When you take a step back and create space, it exposes what was real and what was built on convenience. It's easy to think that love only grows through closeness, through constant communication and physical affection. But real connection doesn't depend on proximity. It depends on emotional depth. When you give her distance, you create a silent test, one that neither of you can escape. It's in that silence that both hearts are revealed for what they truly are. If it was only attraction or ego, it fades quickly. But if it was genuine, it lingers. It grows stronger in the quiet, not weaker. When she no longer hears from you every day, she begins to feel the absence in small, unexpected ways. It could be a moment when something funny happens, and she instinctively wants to tell you, but she can't. Or when she's feeling low and realizes you're no longer there to comfort her. Those moments carry weight because they force her to confront how emotionally intertwined your connection once was. The absence becomes a mirror, showing her just how much of her peace was tied to your presence. And when that realization sets in, it sparks reflection that no conversation could have triggered. Absence doesn't just test her feelings, it tests yours too. It challenges you to see if your emotions were rooted in attachment or genuine connection. It makes you face yourself to see whether your love was about possession or about care. When you stop trying to control outcomes and simply let the distance breathe, something powerful happens. You start to see who you both are without the noise. You begin to understand that love in its purest form doesn't demand. It observes. It waits. It trusts. For her, that distance creates emotional contrast. It allows her to experience life without your energy in it, to feel what it's like to walk through her days without your steady presence. And it's in that emptiness where clarity begins to bloom, because people rarely understand the depth of a connection while they're in it. Comfort blinds them. Familiarity dulls their appreciation. But when that comfort is gone, when the conversations stop and the laughter fades, it creates a vacuum that memory rushes to fill. She starts remembering your tone, your gestures, the way you made her feel understood without even trying. Those memories replay over and over, not because she wants them to, but because her heart can't forget what it felt like to be seen. Absence brings truth to the surface. The people who were meant to stay will feel the pull, no matter how far apart they are. You'll find that your energy continues to linger in her thoughts, not because of manipulation, but because genuine bonds don't break with silence. They deepen through it. The people who were never truly connected, on the other hand, will drift away, not because of distance, but because there was never enough depth to sustain them. That's the power of stepping back. It separates what's fragile from what's real. You start to see that love doesn't always need constant validation. It needs space to breathe, to evolve, to find its balance. When you give her distance, you're not punishing her. You're allowing the connection to prove itself. You're allowing time and silence to filter out what words and effort couldn't. If she truly values what you shared, that space won't be the end, it will be the awakening. She'll start to realize that her comfort wasn't just in having you near, it was in knowing that you cared, that your energy was there even without words. And the truth is, absence reveals emotional maturity. It shows who's capable of introspection and who's driven by impulse. If she truly has feelings for you, that distance won't create resentment. It'll create understanding. She'll begin to see the things she overlooked before, the moments she took lightly, the emotions she brushed aside. She'll feel a growing sense of appreciation, one that only comes from loss. Because losing access to someone who made her feel emotionally safe forces her to recognize that not everyone can provide that. For you, this space becomes your proving ground too. It's where you learn the strength of detachment, not as a defense mechanism, but as an act of self-respect. You're no longer chasing her to validate your worth. You're standing still to protect your peace. And in that stillness, you find your power. You begin to understand that what's meant for you will never be pushed away by distance. It will be drawn closer by it. She starts to feel that same pull. Even if she tries to distract herself, even if she tells herself she's moved on, that quiet ache will remain. Because distance exposes the emotional truth that denial tries to bury. The world around her might be loud, but in the stillness of her thoughts, your absence becomes impossible to ignore. She starts to see that connection isn't about who's around the most. It's about who lingers when everyone else fades. That's when the realization hits that what you shared was not temporary. It was rooted in something deeper than convenience. It was connection, and no amount of distance can truly erase that